I don't work out my upper arms. So when I tell you that I've just had the best upper arm workout of this year, definitely of this year, that I can remember, I'm not kidding. I'm not lying. I have just spent the last 10 minutes of my life before just a second ago trying to take pictures for a thumbnail for this video. Listen, being a superstar is difficult, but the most difficult part of making a YouTube video for me is the thumbnail, because you have to trick people into clicking on your video. And for me, that involves a pile of books and a smize at the camera. And if I end up using the thumbnail that I want to, I'm like standing holding the big ass book pile of books in one arm and my camera like out in front. Can you see my arm? It's like still shaking. Camera in one hand, both, and I posed like that for like 10 minutes. And my arms are weak. They're weak. I was adjusting the camera so that I was in frame, and I was like jerking the camera up and down because I couldn't hold my hand steady. Welcome to my channel. My name's Charles. We're talking about my favorite books of the year, of 2023. The other day I said last year, referring to 2021. That was not last year. What can you do? The books I picked out, there are 4 honorable mentions and 6 books. Only 6 books made it to my favorite books of this year, and they're not even that... I mean, there are a few that I really, really love. I mean, I love all of them. All of my definitive favorites from this year are fantastic, but I haven't had the best reading year, and I wanted to do a video on that. If you know what a book tag is, there's an end of year book tag for people who make videos about books, and I thought about doing that one, but I didn't really like the questions, and I was like, how do I reflect on my year of reading? I was like, I guess I could write my own questions, and then wait a day or two and answer them, but I'm not quite in my dissociative identity disorder bag quite yet. I also thought about just soliloquying about my year, but I was like, honestly, I don't have that much to say. So, if you want a video reflecting back on my year of reading, habits, whatever questions you have, comment, ask one, and I'll make the video. Otherwise I'm probably not gonna make it. But if you have a question, drop it down below and maybe I'll make the video. I think it would be fun to reflect on a video, but I can't do a whole ass essay on it. I would rather just rapid fire answer questions. Not the best reading year, but some great books did come of it. And we're starting with 4 honorable mentions. I was about to film this video when I realized that there were 4 books. 4 out of the 6 books I had not included in my... There should probably be 5 honorable mentions. I'm not getting it from my shelf, but we'll talk about it if I remember in like 2 minutes. But I almost didn't pick out 4 of the books because I have books in different places of my place, and I forgot about them. I kid you not, if I had posted this video, I would have taken it down, refilmed it, and reposted it because I missed some books I really, really enjoyed. Let's get into them. The first honorable mention that is not in the pile of books, it's back on my shelf, is Death in Her Hands by Ottessa Moshfegh. This is one of my less favorite of moshfeghs. It's about an old woman who discovers a note in the woods that says, I killed an old woman. Or it's a note saying that I've been murdered or something. Something like that. It's a note about murder, and it follows the old woman and her dog trying to unravel that mystery. It's a very wintry mood, atmospheric read, and ultimately very... too much of a spoiler. Ultimately very unsettling, but not in a scary way. Just kind of disorienting. Final answer, disorienting. It's a bit disorienting, but it's fun, and it made me question where the boundary between fiction and reality lies. And for that, I really enjoyed it. I also really like Ottessa Moshfegh's writing. I love My Year of Rest and Relaxation and Eileen. There's a movie out, I think. I haven't seen it yet. but I plan on it. I haven't read her other books, but I've been meaning to pick them up, and I probably will early next year, if not like right after I finish this video. It was a great book. It was a great book. The next is Memories of My Melancholy Whores by Gabriel Garcia Marquez. This is by far the shortest book on this list. I hated Marquez before I picked this up. I only picked this up for my video, Reading Like a Prostitute, and because the title's awesome. I was very, very pleasantly surprised. It's about a horny 90-year-old man turning 91 and his relationship with a young prostitute. He's also reflecting back on his life and his experiences with other women throughout the time. It's very funny, it's very sad, very thoughtful. It has the kind of moshfegh, Bret Easton Ellis-y, not caring about being perceived in a correct light. Not that there's anything transgressive about any of those authors, about Bret Easton Ellis, moshfegh, or Marquez, but people often perceive the books to be transgressive because the characters are, and I love a novel that just doesn't care about being interpreted correctly and has a good time with it. Does that make sense? Who knows? Here's one of my favorite quotes from the book. Today I look back, I see the line of thousands of men who have passed through my beds, and I'd give my soul to have stayed with even the worst of them. Amen. The next honorable mention is Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn Waugh, and I really debated on putting this on the favorite list, even though the favorite, even though it's all arbitrary. But I read this in such a short period. I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more had I spaced it out. I read it in a few days, I want to say, but I remember really enjoying it. Brideshead Revisited is about a boy named Charles who becomes infatuated with a wealthy family. They meet at Oxford, and then it's a retrospective, if I'm using the word right, but it's Charles. Is it Charles? There are two boys. It's one of the boys looking back and then retelling the story of their of them getting to know one another, and of Charles getting to know Sebastian, the other boy's family, and just how the relationship unfolds. It has, because it's told as a recounting of the past, it has a very Paradise Lost, not like Milton. I haven't read Paradise Lost, but like a Paradise Lost energy, vibe to it, atmosphere, because you know that it's progressing towards something that is no longer. Very melancholy. It reminded me a lot of E.M. Forster in its exploration of a clash of ideals. One of my notable takeaways from Brideshead Revisited was the quote, "What better to believe something than because it is a lovely idea?" There's a very big clash between Sebastian and Charles, and their beliefs on just beliefs. It explores differing perceptions of the same reality, labels, and I really, really enjoyed it. I have 2 copies of this book. I enjoyed it enough to the point that I bought a special edition copy of it. I would read it again, and then it would probably make it into my list of favorites. I almost bought another Evelyn Waugh book at the bookstore, but he has quite the list of... Oh, this was also written... It's set post-World War II, I want to say. Probably written around 1950 or 60. Unless it's the 80s or something like that. 1951, 1945. Oops. So right after World War II, I think. But I almost bought another book by Evelyn Waugh. I ordered this one from Canada on eBay because the American edition of it is atrocious. But for the 3rd time, I almost bought another Evelyn Waugh book, but he has so many others that I felt pretty overwhelmed, and I'm not big on wartime stories, so I didn't end up getting one. If you've read Brideshead Revisited and you like another of Waugh's novels, let me know. The last 2 honorable mentions I'll present together because of their similarities. They are Olive Kitteridge by Elizabeth Strout and Interpreter of Maladies by Jhumpa Lahiri. I read these for a video reading Pulitzer Prize books. Pulitzer Prize books have played a very large role in my reading life for a few years now, and I thought the video would be fun, so I did it. But the issue was that I read these books too quickly. I made the video in about a week, which meant that I only spent about a day on each of these, which contributes to me them not really leaving as deep a mark as I think they could have, because I do really remember the mood of both of these books, but I don't remember the content very, very well. I think had I stayed with Olive Kitteridge, the character, or the cast of characters, the world, the universe, and with Jhumpa Lahiri's stories over the course of a few months, I would have really, really loved these. But in addition to reading them in a day, I don't quite know how to consume short stories, which is why I don't pick up many. I have a few collections, but I don't reach for them. It's why I haven't picked up moshfegh's collection yet, even though I've been wanting to. Maybe I'll start doing bedtime stories to myself, but I don't know. Anyway, I pair them together because they're both Pulitzer Prize winning short story collections, and they're both about humanity and loneliness and love. And I think what's notable to me about all of the Pulitzer Prize books I've read, this quality of coping with an imperfect life, coping with trauma, heartbreak, and general ennui. Is that the word? You know, like listlessness. But all of the Pulitzer Prize books I've done, for the most part, I'm looking at you, Cormac McCarthy, have done a great job of executing that theme. On the Olive Kitteridge part, I remember there's a story about... Oh, I should tell you a little bit about what these are about. Olive Kitteridge follows a woman, Olive Kitteridge, throughout, I don't know how many stories, about 8 maybe, I want to say. It doesn't matter. But each story follows a different character. Each story is its own unit, distinguishable unit, but Olive Kitteridge is in each story to some capacity. Some she's more central, others she's not, but it's all set in the same universe, and that gives the story a very nice... I don't think profluence is an accepted word, but I took a class on storytelling, and profluence was one of the big words of that class, and it's what you use to push a narrative forward. But profluence, it has great profluence because they're all stories set in the same universe. You spend a chunk of time with one character or a cast of characters, a story, and then you move on before it gets too self-indulgent, grating, annoying, self-pitying. It's very... Like Olive Kitteridge, the character, she's very no BS, but a kind woman. I might have to cut the profluence bit. That didn't make a lot of sense. There's a story about a piano player that I really, really loved and that made my heart ache for this woman. Loneliness is a great, great standout theme of Olive Kitteridge. I recommend you read it and probably space it out a little more than over the course of one day. Oh! This also reminded me of Jennifer E. Gann's A Visit from the Goon Squad, because it's also stories that are in the same universe, but each one follows a different character, but characters show up throughout other stories. Interpreter of Maladies, very similar themes. I remember the first story in particular. It's about a failing marriage and how the couple grow apart, but then there's a power outage in the city, I think each day at a certain time, and I get distracted every time something's happening outside my window. There's a car. But the power goes out every day at a certain time, and they begin talking to each other. They have uninhibited, not like sober, but they don't restrain themselves. They're not putting up a front. They have uninhibited conversations. You guys, I get schizophrenic when I'm filming these videos and use a word that's not like good, bad, sad, uninhibited. Expressing expressing one's feelings or thoughts unselfconsciously and without restraint. I nailed it. Listen, I nailed it. I'm sorry. But that's what they do. They begin communicating. And I like the concept of attaching significance to a silly ritual, like the power going out, and then having very earnest, deep conversations. Listen, I'm corny at heart. I'm a sentimentalist, and I thought that was really sweet and very sad. Ultimately, the couple does not stay together. It's really, really sad. I've said this about other books, but big theme is accepting life as it is. That was the theme of my Winter Rex video, and I almost put both of these on it, but I was like, Oh. On to my favorites of the year, starting with Daphne du Maurier's Rebecca. This follows, I think, an unnamed narrator. I'm almost sure she's unnamed. She's very young. I don't know how young. Maybe like 19 or 20, 18, something like that. And she meets a widowed man while her mistress, she's like a, I don't know what the word for it is now, but like a maid, a companion. Not a prostitute, just like a companion of sorts. But her companion, the rich one paying her, is on vacation, and she meets a man named Henry de Winter, Maxim, and his wife has just died, Rebecca, and everybody loves her. Rebecca is the perfect woman, and he's grieving her loss. The two get married, and Maxim takes the narrator back to his estate. He's a very wealthy man on the coast of England, I think, called Manderley, and Manderley is the dominant image of Rebecca. It's an estate on the coast. A very, very atmospheric. I really enjoyed the writing. There's a plot twist, and I really liked the plot twist. I think that it made a lot of sense for the story. It was very, very enjoyable. If I've said this before when I've talked about this on the channel, but if you read the first 50 pages and don't like it, you won't like the rest of the book. The major reason I like this is because of the writing and style and the sense of it had an ominous tone. Because there's like a prologue, and it talks about, the narrator's talking about, she still has, the first sentence, I swear. Yeah, last night I dreamt I went to Manderley again. And it gives it an ominous sense. So you know that she gets married to Max, and then at some point leaves, but you don't know why, and that's very eerie. But it's really, really fun. Only critique I have of this is that after the plot twist, which is 300 pages in, you shouldn't be reading this for excitement, but it has great tension. Not very exciting, great tension. There's a difference. But, what was I saying? Oh, after the plot twist, it got a little bit melodramatic. A wee bit. So it's not the perfect novel. I was like, maybe it could be perfect. It's almost perfect to me. But it just got a little bit whatever. Also, the narrator's kind of annoying. What can you do? But I really, really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to read more from du Maurier. The next on this list is Out by Natsuo Kirino. I found this book, I think I might have seen it on a list online, some like list of, every once in a while. Before I had YouTube, I would just Google lists of like best classics of all time, best thrillers of all time, best whatever of all time, list of books to read before you die. And I think this might have been on one of those lists which primed my memory for when I saw it at the bookstore. I was like, oh, that sounds really good. I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. And I'm so glad I did. Out falls under the category of books I would call thoughtful thrillers. Most of my favorite thrillers, or just the thrillers that I enjoy, are fun, but they're thoughtful. There's a message to them. E.g., Endless Night, Agatha Christie, on love and choice. It's probably a niche reference. What can you do? I love Endless Night. I'm getting off topic. Out is also a thoughtful thriller. It follows, I think this is the premise. Yeah, the premise, I just want to be very sure that I'm not spoiling books for my fans, because I love them. Out follows 4 women who work at a box lunch factory in Tokyo. This is translated fiction. One of them murders her husband, and it follows the aftermath of the murder. I feel like that's enough of a synopsis. It's really fun. It's dark. It's gory, shocking. But what I love about this is that everything that happens has this quality of inevitability that seems so effortless when you're reading the book, but in actuality, I don't come across many books that execute inevitability in any truly incredible manner, but this one did that. Also, the characters in Out are very, very well crafted. They're multifaceted, they're fun, they're not black and white, good and evil. And I really, really enjoyed it. It's so much fun. There's no fat in this book either. Like, everything in this book, you start with a bunch of threads and slowly they start weaving together, and it's such a blast to read. Did I say this was written in 2003? I also love the main character, Masako, and her happiness arc, if that's what you'd call it. It's a fantastic book, and I highly recommend. Next book on this list, so good. It's I Captured the Castle by Dodie Smith, which I had not, I had heard of it in passing, but I picked it up at a bookstore, and it had an atrocious cover, and I read the first page, and I was like, this sounds really, really good. And so when I got home, I scoured the web for more appropriate looking covers, and I came across this one from 60 years ago. I threw away the dust jacket because it was falling to pieces. It was literally falling to pieces. I'm not uptight about my books. I buy most of them used. This was literally falling to pieces. And I read it without the cover, and I was like, I don't want the dust jacket on the book on my shelf. I also like it without the dust jacket because I Captured the Castle is the diary of a 17-year-old girl and her family's life in an abandoned castle that has been re-inhabited by them, and it just follows their life. Big themes are love, sisterhood. Yeah. The way I led into the synopsis of the book was that someone gives the main character a journal that she begins writing in, and it's pale blue leather. And when I was reading that, I was like, that is so clever. That's so fun, because this is pale blue. It feels like leather. It's not leather. It's just painted. Really, really good. So funny. I don't think I said this. I've talked about it in at least 2 or 3 videos, but I was reading this in bed and actually giggling, laughing out loud, a bit uncontrollably. I was like, it's so stupid, but it knows it's stupid and it knows it's funny. Definitely by far the funniest book on this list, and I really enjoyed it. This is kind of We Have Always Lived in the Castle by Shirley Jackson, but not minus all the sinister bits. I didn't really love that book. I thought it was good, but I didn't love it anywhere near like I love I Captured the Castle. Did you know? Also, if you didn't know, Dodie Smith wrote 101 Dalmatians, which blew my mind when I found out. When I finished this book, I went to look for more from Dodie Smith, and she has so many novels, but none of them are reviewed. It's I Captured the Castle has 100,000 reviews on Goodreads or something, and then it goes 101 Dalmatians, and then way below, it's I don't know, a few thousand reviews. So it's where are her other books bad, or do people not pick them up? If you've read more from Dodie Smith, I would really, really love to get a rec, whatever. I'm hesitant about picking up more from her because I don't want to ruin my experience with this book, and I am looking forward to picking it up again. I did tear up on the last page. It was really sad. I really enjoyed this and highly, highly recommend it. If you're going to pick up one book from this list, this is the one. Next on this list is Elena Ferrante's The Days of Abandonment. I've read 2.5 books from her Neapolitan Quartet, which is a series of 4 novels focusing on the coming of age of a girl in Italy. And I thought the first novel was really brilliant, and I normally hate Bildungsroman's coming of age novels. The Days of Abandonment is not part of that universe. It's its own skinny little quick read, and it's about a woman whose husband abandons her and their 2 children. ish. I mean, he like kind of supports them, but he like leaves them to make a new family, hence the days of abandonment. And it follows the woman's spiral post abandonment, and it's very visceral. It's angry, it's distraught, it's sad, funny. It is very funny. You can't do sad without humor. Some people don't understand that. The writing is really, really fantastic. This is translated from Italian, and I forget that Elena Ferrante is a translated author, that she writes in Italian originally, because the English is really, really great. I used to have anxiety about picking up translated works, but not really anymore. I mean, like, you know, what can you do? I think one of the reviews... every reviewer is calling every book razor sharp, but this one really, really is. Oh my god. One of the back reviewers, The Guardian, blurbs the book as visceral. No big deal. One review that I like, nothing you read about Elena Ferrante's work prepares you for the ferocity of it. Literally feral. You won't understand it till you pick it up, but it's so feral and so much in earnest. It's really, really great. I think when I keep a notes app of books that I'm reading, I think when I was reading this, I wrote, Elena Ferrante walked so that Ottessa moshfegh could run. Not that they're... Might have to cut that part. It feels like comparing women. They're not. I mean, I'm going to read you a paragraph. It's one of my favorite parts from the book and very representative of the book and its cleverness and ferocity as a whole. Quote, everything was so random. As a girl, I had fallen in love with Mario, but I could have fallen in love with anyone. A body to which we end up attributing who knows what meanings. A long passage of life together, and you think he's the only man you can be happy with. You credit him countless critical virtues, and instead he's just a reed that emits sounds of falsehood. You don't know who he really is, he doesn't know himself. We are occasions. We consummate life and lose it, because in some long ago time someone, in the desire to unload his cock inside us, was nice, chose us among women. We take for some sort of kindness addressed to us alone, the banal desire for sex. We love his desire to fuck, we are so dazzled by it we think it's the desire to fuck only us alone. Oh yes, he who is so special and who has recognized us as special. We give it a name, that desire of the cock. We personalize it. We call it my love. To hell with all that dazzlement, that unfounded titillation. Once he fucked me, now he fucks someone else. What claim do I have? Time passes, one goes, another arrives. I was about to swallow some pills. I wanted to sleep lying in the darkest depths of myself. The Days of Abandonment. So clever, so smart, so good. If you like a crazy broad, this book is for you. Speaking of crazy broads, we have Anna Karenina. I was going to say by Tolstoy, but it's just Anna Karenina. I'm pretty sure this is a 2014 translation from Rosamund Bartlett for Oxford. If you live in the US, I'm sure you can get this outside of the US too, but it's the hardcover Oxford edition. And I love this translation. The only comparison I have is that I read a passage, like a paragraph of Anna Karenina, or like a page or two, from the Pavir and Larissa. You know, there's like a pair of people who translate every Russian work, and I didn't like their translation as much. So I really highly recommend you read this. Anna Karenina is really fantastic. And you know I'm not fronting, because I love to hate on a classics. I think that most of the classics I've read do not deserve their status as some of the best books of all time. I think it's farcical. Anna Karenina, I get it. I really get it. Tolstoy is a genius at writing realism. It's everything in this book feels so real. When I think of Anna Karenina, it feels like a Narnia-esque, you know, like you walk through your wardrobe and you're in this other world. I haven't read Narnia or seen the movies, but that's my impression. And that's how I feel about Anna Karenina, that it's a world, an adjacent world, waiting for me. I love the characters, very great. I love the dialogue. Earlier this year, I filmed a favorites of all time video, and this made the cut, and I'd only finished reading it for 2 months. Since finishing it, it's become kind of my touchstone, quality metric, whatever, for every theme that this considers. I think it's really, really wonderful. And I don't recommend Anna Karenina often because it's like, if you know, you know. Like, I'm not going to be out here on my silly little channel recommending people like 800 thick ass page books. Because if you want to read Anna Karenina, you have to like really want to read it. Not because it's hard to read. It's not hard to read. It's very, very readable, which surprised me going in. But you have to really want to read it because there's so many characters, and with the Russian naming system, like the patronymics, who knows, but each character has like 3 names or 3 variations of the same name. I kept track of them in a notebook because I started War and Peace, got 100 pages in, put it down for a couple weeks, and then when I picked it back up, I was like, what the hell is going on? And so going into this, I was like, I gotta keep up. So I kept up in a notebook, and it was so rewarding. My hot take with Anna Karenina is that you should spoil it going in. I think it gives the novel a brilliant tension. Someone spoiled this for me, and I was pretty upset, but I really enjoyed the build-up to the end. I was like, how do we get from the beginning to the end? So spoil it. That's my hot take. If you've tried to read Anna Karenina and you can't make it far in, pick up this translation, 1, and 2, spoil it for yourself. Spoil the plot twist. Because Anna Karenina's brilliance does not rely on a plot twist. It relies on every interaction between 2 characters and Tolstoy's insights into humanity. But spoiling the end will give this novel great tension. The last book on this list I also read this year, crazy to think, because it's been such a minute, and it has also made it to my all-time favorites list. That is Bret Easton Ellis's The Shards. I think Bret Easton Ellis is brilliant, really smart. This book was a blast to read. The Shards is about a group of high school students in LA and their relations to one another, and a serial killer who is killing kids in a very, very brutal manner, like very graphic, very harrowing. And it follows those 2 storylines and when they interact. This book is so scary, so well written, so much fun to read. I just had a blast reading this book, and I was scared. It is spooky, and it's really sad because like the dead people make it sad for me. But if you like a high school kid drama with a serial killer side twist, fun. You know, I think I said about one of these books or some book sometime during this video that one of the books is unsettling. This book is also unsettling. It's disorienting. A lot of people don't like Bret Easton Ellis, and I think that the best authors are ones with like a 3-star rating on Goodreads because they're so decisive. Every time I say divisive, I want to say decisive, or I do say decisive. I can't get it straight. But people, he's polarizing. I should just say that instead. Bret Easton Ellis is very, very polarizing, and I'm on the side, I love him. I was recently listening to a podcast between him and ottessa moshfegh. The podcast is from like a couple years ago. It's an old episode, but Bret Easton Ellis has a podcast. Who knew? But in it, Bret talks about how the only thing, he thinks the only thing, and I agree, the only thing that really there is to a novel is tone and style. And I agree, like how are you going to read a like banging plot line if you don't like the writing? Answer, you're not. That's why I don't pick up a lot of fantasy or thriller or horror, because I think they usually rely too much on a flashy subject matter and not enough on substance, on craft. It's why I love Donna Tartt, because she does both, and she does both incredibly. Anyway, that's all to say that Bret's take that style is all there really is to a novel is very apparent in his writing. It's very cyclical. It's a lot of the same thing over and over and over again. But I love it. It's so much fun. I love reading his books. I'm reading The Rules of Attraction right now, and that probably would have made it somewhere on this list. Definitely had not The Shards been on it. I love The Shards. It came out in paperback, and I had to restrain myself from buying it. But I will be buying the paperback as soon as I reread this book. Oh my god, I forgot I was supposed to be at dinner 3 minutes ago. Oops. I do it for my fans. I do it for my fans. Side note, I hate being late. I hate people who are late. Of course, here I am late. But no excuses. No excuses. I don't want to hear, oh, I'm just like a late person. No, you're not. Get a fucking grip. I hate people who are late. I show up everywhere I go like 15 minutes late out of like anxiety that my car will explode and I'll have to like get out and sprint there. I hate people who are late. But I was with my fans and I'm superstar, so this instance should be excusable. What was I saying? I love the shards. That's it for my favorite books of this year. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you feel like it, tell me some of your favorite books that you read this year. The funny thing about being on YouTube that I've noticed is that I'm not influencing people. I mean, maybe I am, but I'm more influenced by what people comment on my videos. Like I've found my reading habits slowly shifting from like whatever I used to read, which is similar to what my fans read, to like picking up a lot of the books that people have recommended, which is funny. I can't wait to see what my reading habits are like in a year. I'm sure it'll literally just be all books that people recommend. But I love reading your recommendations or like looking into them. I also feel a lot more courage to try new things, because if you're watching my video, that means that in some way you vibe with what I'm saying. So maybe we have similar literary tastes. I don't care about genre. Whatever. Maybe I'll cut that part. Recommend a book if you feel like it. Thanks for watching. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Okay, bye. See you soon.